Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Meet You at the Top podcast with your hosts, Magda Wolski
and Elphi Bolombo. Today we have a very special guest. He's an entrepreneur, he's an advocate, a speaker, and he's just changing lives of people. We have Alejandro.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm excited and a little bit nervous. I haven't been nervous in a while.
It's all good. It's all good. You'll do great. Just thank you. I want to start off. You have such a beautiful establishment here. We're at Empire Restaurant in Toronto. So thank you once again. So Alejandro, we know that you've had an interesting life, you know, from where you were to where you are now. Give us a little bit of a rundown. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where it all started?
That's right.
Well, I was always, I don't know, if I go back to when I was a little boy and my passions when I was a little boy, I was always into performing. I was always into speaking. I was an avid writer as a kid. And then as life goes on, you know, we meet different people. We take on different identities.
Yes.
Right? We wear different masks. We want to fit in. There's peer pressure. So in my teenage years, I did choose a path that wasn't considered the straight path. I grew up downtown, Christie and Bloor, Toronto. Joined the gang when I was young, 13, 14 years old. I joined the gang.
Wow.
And just got into the wrong crowd. But I always knew that I had particular strengths, entrepreneurial strengths. I just used it for the wrong things. And then, you know, obviously there's consequences to that. So
Of course.
did some time in prison, told, you guys a little bit about that. And here we are today, and here I'm given an opportunity to retell the story.
Absolutely.
And how, yeah.
I remember when I met you last week, I remember just hearing a little bit of your story and just being like, wow, I need to have you on this podcast.
Thank you.
I think that your energy is very positive. You're very welcoming, and you can inspire a lot of people who may be in your shoes when you were going through a lot of different things. So tell us, from, you know, getting involved in a gang, going to prison, how did your entrepreneurship journey start when you're going through all that turmoil and facing adversity like that?
That's a really good question. I think you have no other choice. You know, when you hit rock bottom, and I feel like in society, like a lot of people are scared to hit rock bottom, and I feel that that's something that should be encouraged. When you hit rock bottom, you have no other choice, guys. Like, you have to pick yourself up. You have to keep going. You have to make the best of your situation. So for me, I was in the most negative place considered in society, prison.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have nothing. You wear the same clothes. You have no possessions. You're told when to sleep. You're told what to eat. But in those situations is where you can actually recreate yourself, because anything you do is going to be a bonus in life. So do you want to read? You can educate yourself. Do you want to go to school? You want to improve your body. You want to eat better. You want to even establish better relationships with your family, more communication on the telephone. So that's where I kind of forced myself to look to do the things that are going to set me up for my eventual release, because that's what society has to understand too. Everyone in prison eventually is going to come home.
Right.
They're going to be your neighbor. They're going to be, sitting next to you on the TTC. So what do we want? What do we want from the people that, you know, go to prison and pay a debt and then come out? Obviously, we want rehabilitation.
Right.
That's right.
But it is a choice in there too, because when you're in there, there is a lot of discouraging factors. You know, you guys have probably watched prison shows.
Yeah.
You know, there's good guards and there's bad guards.
Yes.
There's good prison officials and there's bad prison officials. So from what I learned, the greatest thing that I learned is life is what you make it. In any circumstance that you find yourself, life is what you take, what you make out of it, right?
Was it, so when you're in prison, was it like a voice in your head? Was it your connection with God? Was it, what was that ultimate factor that was really just like giving you that?
I think initially it was something spiritual, something
Amen.
deep inside that's telling me, you know, Alejandro, like you have so much more to give. There's so much more to life. Yeah, you lost. You're gonna lose 10 years. Put that in your mind. 10 years you're losing, but how are you gonna make that back? The only way you're gonna make that back is by making positive improvements in your life. And that's where I got into fitness. I got into my Bible. I got into educating myself and preparing for that eventual release. But initially it was a spiritual, and I think, you know, even for people that maybe don't believe in the spiritual side, there's always going to be something like an epiphany or something that happens that kind of makes you snap out of it, and then you're like, you know what, it's grind time. I got this. I got to do this, right?
Yeah.
Now, would you say, I mean, everything that you've been through, has this made your relationship with God stronger, or has this made you question God?
See, that's a really interesting question, because right now I'm on my journey. I guess, you know, I think it's a forever evolving personal journey. I'm taking philosophy right now. I'm in my last year of philosophy.
Wow.
And philosophy is, you know, contradicts a lot of, you know, religious, spiritual aspects.
Yes.
But I think, you know, we have to take it all as a whole, right? We have to take it all as a whole, use our experiences, use the voices that are in our mind. And yeah, I feel like, obviously I believe that, there is something. I don't know if it's, you know, the God of the Bible or, but I do believe that there is a force, or if you want to just say energies, like even how me and Elphi met that day, like it's the same type of energies. You know, I see her, I'm like, I have to go talk to this group. And you could kind of feel the aura. And then when you get closer to each other, it's kind of like synergy, just like how you guys have chose to work together. I could see the synergy between you guys. And I think that that's a very important lesson, because when we're younger, we don't understand that energy. We don't understand that synergy. And sometimes we're wasting that energy with the wrong people. And that's what I did for a big part of my life. I wasted that energy with the wrong people, where I wasn't growing. We weren't allowing each other to grow. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Was there anything you did that helped you tap in to be able to have that self-awareness and to be able to recognize the energy around you?
Yeah, so I think it's just about putting yourself in environments that promote that self-growth, that promote that self-improvement. So in prison, I have choices. I could go hang out in the prison yard and be with guys that are just talking gossip.
Yeah.
I could be playing pool and smoking weed. Or I could go to the book club. I could go to a Toastmasters group. I don't know if you guys know about Toastmasters.
Yes.
I started Toastmasters in prison. Go
Wow,
to Toastmasters group.
amazing.
Go to a writing group. Go to a yoga class. Go to a Buddhist meditation. So that's what I think it all comes down to, is setting ourselves up and putting ourselves in situations that are going to set us up for success.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
great. Now,
sure.
having said that, what makes you think, what makes a person commit a crime?
I think there's multiple factors. I think mental health has a lot to play with it. Socioeconomic background, you know, absolutely has plays factors in why people commit crime. People's past experience. I can only speak from myself.
For sure.
Right.
And, you know, going through, like, really understanding myself, I think I was just bored. You know, I have ADHD. I was diagnosed through the school that I have ADHD. And, you know, we didn't understand feelings and emotions and psychology
Right.
30 years ago when I was in school. So even my psychologist said, who knows, maybe they could have given you a pill and you wouldn't have looked for these extracurricular activities.
Right.
So I kind of chose crime because it excited me. The risk excited me. And I didn't really have positive mentors at that time that could have directed and channeled that energy into legitimate business. They channeled that into illegitimate business.
Yeah.
But what we need to understand is a legitimate business and business is the same. Skills are interchangeable, right? And that's what I'm trying to really, really stress and put out there, is that, guys, like, if we were to use the skills that we have, you know, learned in the streets, we could actually do positive things.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely a walking testimony to that. So
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate
It's so
that.
beautiful and inspiring.
Thank you.
Seriously. Do you feel like certain cities in Ontario puts teens in a position to be more
Susceptible to
Yeah.
crime.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you guys a quick story, okay?
Of course.
Growing up, Central Tech, downtown Toronto, Bathurst and Harvard, bad school, police presence right in front of the school. Like, cops are there all day.
Yeah.
I got charged. I got charged for smoking weed, and I was in grade
Really?
9. I got charged for
Wow.
possession of marijuana. They came to my class and arrested me for possession of marijuana. So that right there was kind of like a snowball effect
Right.
to my
Yeah.
life of crime, right? So I got kicked out of Central Tech, went to another inner city school, Central Commerce, then went to another inner city school, Western Tech. And then in my mind, I'm like, what am I doing going to these inner city schools? It's nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
I made a fake license. At that age, I knew, listen, I needed to get out of this environment. I went to North Toronto, and I ended up graduating from Forest Hill. So this is the difference. I graduated from Forest Hill, no police presence. Parties and drugs, more at Forest Hill, more in the Jewish way, there, as opposed to Central Tech, but more police presence in Central Tech. So that kind of was like, blew my mind.
Yeah.
There's certain areas, there's certain people that are set up for success, certain people that are set up for failure. Inner city kids are,
And I would imagine if you're smoking weed in front of a private school, for example, I'm sure you wouldn't have been arrested. Just to give the
Forest
example,
Hill,
right?
they're playing hacky sack and smoking weed. And it's clouds of smoke at Forest Hill, guys. Right?
Yeah.
Wild.
Well, I mean, you've been through the experience of the justice system. Do you think jail is a good rehabilitation form for people in Canada?
Or do you think there's room for improvement?
I wouldn't wish prison upon anyone. I
Right.
don't think it's a deterrent. I feel that if someone's going to commit a crime, they're going to do it regardless of the consequences. You're not thinking of the consequences. For sure, there is tons of room for improvement, but it's such a hidden world. Correction Service Canada keeps it such a hidden world. Like, you guys can't go and visit a prison inside. There's a committee that goes on they just show you
what they want you
to see.
Right.
Because if the public had more input, there would be a lot of changes.
Interesting.
Police unions, guard unions, they run it. And at the end of the day, and I'm not even like trying to bash Correction Service Canada, because they did assist me in certain ways, but people don't really want to work, right? Guards don't really want to work. The majority of guards want to go there, do the job, go home.
Yeah.
Right? But of course, if there was a little bit more, like what helped me was kind of interaction with the guards and seeing life through a different set of eyes. The guards kind of telling me, like, this is my life. This is my job. I go home. I have a nice car. I have a nice home. I live a good life. Right? It's just like, wow.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like the prison systems are overcrowded and maybe that's why they're kind of releasing people sooner? What do you think about the overcrowding in prisons?
I think 100% people are going to jail way too early. So like the demographic, like the penitentiary before was reserved for like the most dangerous people. Like, you're a threat to society. This is the last resort. We're putting you in the penitentiary. But now with gun culture, rap culture, stuff like that, there are mandatory minimums. So if a kid gets caught with a gun, he's doing 3 years. So now it's like you see babies, like 18, 19, 20-year-old baby.
Yeah.
Right? Baby. And it's now babies that are in prison, and then they're coming out as hardened adults.
Yeah.
Whereas before it would be hardened adults getting put in, and it's like, so I feel with the mandatory minimums, I feel with all these tough on crime laws, me personally, I feel more community involvement. I feel more mentoring, stuff like that is what's needed, especially in a city like Toronto. I don't think putting more people in prison is the solution.
Right.
What are some steps that people can take, let's say if they're just coming out of prison, to get their life in order? Because I know when I was speaking to you, you were talking about you fought for yourself to be able to even start your personal training certificate while you were in jail.
Yeah.
So what are some things that people can do either while they're in prison or when they're getting out to make sure that they're not going back to the old life that they were living?
So it's the same thing, like just like I said about environments and putting yourself in environments that are going to set you up for success. There's a lot of resources in Toronto. There's a lot of government resources. There's a lot of resources that could help you if you want to go to school or get education. For me, it was putting myself in uncomfortable situations with completely different people that I was used to, because you come from prison where it's a monotonous day.
Yeah.
Same conversations, same speech. Everybody speaks the same. So it's like, okay, I'm going to come out. How am I going to improve my speech? How am I going to fix some of the words and the slang that I've been so accustomed to using? So I went to places like Toastmasters. I went to the reference library and talked to people. Just going to conferences, going to business conferences and learning the same thing, learning to just go up to 20 people and introduce myself and get their business cards. So that's what I think, and it could relate to any aspect of business, is just kind of putting yourself out of your comfort zone every single day until you find your strengths and you identify your weaknesses.
Absolutely. That's
Amazing.
beautiful. Tell us a little bit about Toastmasters. You didn't make mention that you started it in prison. How was that? Tell us a little bit about it.
So like I said, when I was young, like I was always into speaking. I love
Yes.
speaking. I love telling stories. Toastmasters is one of the best things that had happened to me in prison. So I joined a prison Toastmasters in 2015, and I was like, wow, like there's actually like competitive speaking groups. And I excelled in it, and it was something that I really applied myself and seen that I had a future coming out. So the first year that I came out, I competed in my first speech contest.
Amazing.
My son, Marcus, helped me write my speech. I had the support of the club, the big support, and I was living in Sudbury at this time.
Okay.
So I was living in Sudbury, won the first, the club level. Won the club
Wow.
level, right? I was like, wow, okay, this is cool. Then we go to the, is it division? Division. Then we go to the division. Win the division. Wow.
Wow.
And then we go to Kitchener. We win the conference.
Wow.
And then we go to Hamilton and win the district. So I was the district 86 champion, first like 1 year on road, right?
Wow.
And then I made it to the 2017 World Championship of Public Speaking,
Wow.
where it was the top 100 out of 33,000 people around the world.
Damn. How did that
So
feel?
that
amazing.
It's like, come on, like,
You're like, I'm Superman at this point.
Yeah, because you just look
Yeah.
at like, where was my life a year ago?
Yeah.
And look at how I've applied myself in 1 year, and look at the results that it gets me. And I think that that's one of the biggest obstacles that we place on ourselves, is that we get complacent. And we get complacent with our everyday routines, and we're not allowing any room for growth. Whereas me, like I said, every day 20 people, every day trying something different, every day out of my comfort zone.
Amazing.
So I was at the 2017 World Championship of Public Speaking, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life.
It's incredible.
Now, how old were you when you came out of prison?
I was 20. I went in when I was 26.
Oh,
So went in
young.
when I was 26, 2007.
Yeah.
And I came out when I was 37.
The reason why I like your story so much is it just goes to show that it's never too late.
For sure.
It's never too late to restart.
Yeah.
And you can always rebuild. And just because you start at an older age, 34 is still very young, it doesn't mean that you can't reach your dreams and get to where you want to go, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think your story is just so inspiring, because like I said, it's never too late. And I think people, when it comes to chasing their dreams, they're like, okay, I'm going to start tomorrow. Oh man, maybe I'm too old for this, you know? So I think that's something that really spoke to me.
Yeah.
When it comes to chasing your dreams and figuring out what it is you want to invest in, how do you go about that?
I think I did the same thing. It's all about energies. It's all about synergies. So like I said, I took a brief hiatus from everything, from my fitness, from my fitness retreats, from running the gym, from running my properties. And I left last year, December 17th, 2021. And I just kind of wanted to prove myself. Like, I've always had this idea that you could drop me any place in the world. Like, if we could be dropped in any place in the world, and you can survive, and you can figure out a way to hustle and make money, you could survive anywhere.
Right.
So I wanted to place that test on me. I wanted to place that challenge on me. So I landed in Quito, Ecuador.
Wow.
Landed in Quito, Ecuador, and right away you start seeing opportunities. I'm a numbers guy. I'm an opportunities guy. Like, even when I walk into a spot, numbers are going off in my head. But that's something that I've programmed myself, because I can go, just like I said, you can go into a spot, you're already programming yourself, I'm going to meet 20 people.
Yeah.
Or
It
you can
works.
program yourself and say, I'm going to stand in the little corner and just observe.
Yeah.
Right? So the same thing. I'm going to this country to look for opportunities. I'm going to this country to see how other people live. I'm going to this country to see how other people hustle. Those countries will teach us so much about hustling, because people are prepared to do whatever it takes.
Wow.
Yeah.
The work ethic in those countries, the work culture is for our Airbnb business, we have lineups of people
Wow.
that will clean an apartment for $20, 4 to 6 hours, top to bottom, baseboards, corners, everything. Over here, $30, $40 an hour, and they're giving you
Bare
fast.
minimum.
Yeah.
Bare minimum. Bare minimum. Right?
Little wipes
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. So it just shows you.
Might not even use soap.
They might not even 100%. They might not even use soap, right? So it's like wow, like we're so accustomed to living in a city, and then we kind of tell ourselves, well, this is the only place we can make it, or we say my family's here, or we create these commitments.
Yeah.
But when you create those commitments, then you're not allowing yourself to expand. So
Right.
I'm really happy that I had that opportunity to go down to South America and see a different way of life, and how I could apply myself to that different way of life.
Wow, beautiful.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love your drive and, just the ambition of trying to do better for yourself. A lot of people can't do that, kind of coming out of prison. What was it like, and what were your emotions kind of having to sit in prison for over 8 years for a crime that you were found not guilty of?
Okay, so I was found guilty. So
Okay.
that case is a different case. That was
Okay.
2001 to 2004 was a completely different case. That was a gang associated case.
Okay.
It's in the news if you guys want to look at it. Jose Vivar, 2001, 2004, some pretty crazy movie style stuff. But like
Yeah.
I don't allow that to kind of dictate
Exactly.
my life.
Yeah.
The
absolutely.
charge that I was in from 2007 to 2016 was drug trafficking. So I was in the drug trade. It's not something that I'm proud of, but it's not something that I regret, because at the end of the day, like I said, it got me to where I am today.
Yeah.
And just sitting in jail and the things that motivated, obviously my kids, right?
Yeah.
Obviously wanting a better life for them and wanting to set a good example for them,
Yeah.
right?
For sure.
And what I would be horrified of was that they follow in my footsteps, or that something
Yeah.
happens to them when I'm not able to guide them. So I think when I came home, I did a pretty good job, considering my circumstances, living in a halfway house, to be an active father.
For sure.
But I think like being a parent changes you,
Yes.
for one, right? I have a good family, put my parents through, the ringer, and you kind of want to make it up to them. But I
For
feel like
sure.
I also owe it to myself. I also owe it to myself to be the best, right? And it's just
Yeah.
like wasted potential. When
Yeah.
you're in there, you're just thinking every day, damn, like I wasted so much potential.
Yeah. What do you think our city can do better in terms of having programs for children so that they have other things to do? What kind of things do you think would help young teens kind of stay out of trouble?
I think just like the main problem, I think people these days don't really understand money. They don't understand, they don't have financial literacy. And that's something that I've always something that I learned later on in life, and it's self-taught.
Yeah.
It's
For
financial
sure.
literacy, building your credit, getting a credit card,
Yes.
certain, working with interest rates, being able to work with the bank's money, refinancing, getting mortgages, all that stuff is not taught in school.
Right.
No.
So I think from a business standpoint, teaching that stuff early on, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, even if it's a little bit of financial literacy, I think that that's going to help kids understand a little bit more the value of money. Other programs, I don't really think programs work, because the hardened kids are not going to take those programs.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids that are coming to these after school programs and stuff like that are kids that want to be there. But how are you going to tell a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid that's making 5 to 10 grand a week,
Right.
come into this drop-in center? Right? They're going to be like, hell no. It could be a 40-year-old, 35-year-old OG
Yeah.
telling them, come into this drop-in center, and they're going to be like, no way, I'm living the fast life. So I think that they have to learn on their own.
Yeah.
I think maybe even just having these type of conversations,
Yes.
having more, presence on social media,
Yeah.
even just people just talking to their families. Like if you
Yeah.
identify someone in your family, then maybe getting into trouble, maybe just sitting down and having that conversation with him.
Yeah, I think communication is really important.
For sure.
That's one of the reasons why we even have this podcast, because we want to inspire other people who are going through it and they can't even talk about it, So even watching something like this, it could maybe spark that,
Yeah.
switch in their minds.
And I think like us as humans, we want to live under this like veil of secrecy.
Yeah.
And we don't want our weaknesses exposed. And I feel like the moment you start gaining success is when you're real about your weaknesses. When you're like really, really real with your weaknesses and you deal with it. Because that's when I'm meeting someone, that's what I'll look at them in the eyes and I'll say, give me 3 weaknesses. Give me 3 weaknesses, Magda.
About you or about me?
You. 3 weaknesses.
I'm just perfect. I don't got any.
2 weaknesses.
Okay. I could be better at time management.
Okay.
And I don't know my second one.
I'll give you one for
Okay.
myself.
Yeah.
I think I could be a better communicator.
Okay.
I think sometimes I think it all stems from your childhood too.
Yeah.
I think for myself, I'm so used to just being like, okay, making my parents happy that
Okay.
sometimes it's harder for me to really say how I feel. I'm all about making people feel good about themselves, but sometimes it's like you have to say what you have to say and get it across.
Okay.
And I would say I'm very friendly, so sometimes it could be a weakness because I don't realize certain situations or, I'm like, oh, I'm just being nice, but then it's like, it's a whole nother thing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I would say it's a weakness.
Okay.
Being too friendly.
I'm a stick to time management.
But you see how tough it is for us, and we're all young professionals. We're chasing our dreams,
Yeah.
but we can't even fully identify our weaknesses. And I'm pretty sure you have 10, at least 10. You have at least 10. I have at least 10. You have at least 10, right? So I think it's just kind of us really getting to terms with what are our weaknesses and even accepting. It's not like we can turn all those weaknesses.
Yeah,
straight,
right.
but
It's good to
just
be self-aware.
100%.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
How has fitness helped change you as a person? Like mindset, body, everything.
So that's like, I'm a huge advocate of taking care of your body.
Yes.
Everything that we consume in life, everything we put into our bodies, money, love, success, career, family, is all a byproduct of how we take care of ourselves. The level of discipline we have when it comes to fitness and stuff like that. So for me, it completely changed my life. I was 263 pounds.
Wow.
When I went in, I was really chubby. Got into distance running. Distance running was literally like my way to escape out of that place. And I became an obsessive with running. And like I said, fitness gave me another career path, because in my mind, I'm just like, I'm doomed to this type of hustle. But I'm like, wow, fitness. And it was more so than networking. So I started working at Good Life right there on Pape and Danforth. And I looked at it more as a networking opportunity. Who am I going to meet?
Yeah.
And I've met some of the biggest supporters, financially, emotionally, through the fitness industry. And just think about it. We're all, when you're in the fitness industry, you're immediately with overachievers. You're immediately surrounding yourself with people who are trying to better their life. So fitness is the way to go, guys. I feel fitness encompasses some sort of fitness. It doesn't have to be like super strenuous CrossFit.
Yeah.
But even if it's just simple stretching, even if we dedicate half an hour to 40 minutes of stretching and getting greater mobility and how you're gonna feel, and again, like how the energy is just gonna like protrude out of you.
Yeah. I always say too, whenever I'm working out, I feel safer.
100%.
I feel like, nobody can tell me anything.
Yes.
I look good, feel good. It just, it gives you like that, like,
Are you cool with socializing sometimes at working out? Or are you those people that just zone out, go to the gym, zone out?
Well, if somebody approaches me, I always, in my mind, I'm like, if somebody's talking to me, that's an opportunity.
Okay.
You never know. I never judge what the person looks like or anything. I'm always open. Like my aura is open.
Wow.
And I feel like because I've adapted that mindset, like things just come to me.
Okay.
Like that's how you're here.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that's
yourself?
how I operate.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever she said.
You guys ever work out together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
When we go to, I like working on my own, but I love having someone else, because when I'm with my trainer, or when I'm with my girlfriend, I go so much harder.
Exactly.
I'm like, damn, I was doing 70 yesterday.
What
now
is
I'm
it?
doing 100.
Is it ego? A little bit of ego that pushes you when you work? Because when I work out with the guys, it's ego.
Yeah.
Like you want to push a little bit extra and show you're a little bit
Yeah,
stronger.
for
But how is
sure.
it for
I don't
for
think
you
it's
guys?
more so ego. I think that because we're two women kind of working out, we have the same goal in mind.
Yeah.
I don't know, we kind of push each other in that way. It's not an ego thing for me though. It's just
For
like,
me, it's like, okay, like let's
little
challenge
competition?
ourselves. Yeah, let's
A little
challenge ourselves.
competition.
You know,
Right.
if I'm with my trainer, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want him to think that all this work has been going
Yeah.
to no use. You know, I've been
Yeah.
putting in work, so let me show him. Because it's crazy. Like, I'll go to gym by myself, and let's say lat pull downs, I'll be doing 70 pounds.
Okay.
When I'm with my trainer, I'm doing 100 pounds. When
Yeah.
he's not there, I'm like,
You're not
struggling.
pushing.
So
Exactly.
it's like, you know, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And when I'm with my girlfriend, it's like, I want to push her
Wow.
more. So if I'm going harder, she's going to go even harder, which will make me go harder.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of how I
That's
look
such an
at it.
interesting thought. That's such an interesting concept too, because I think it even can go into the workplace and
Yeah.
having good mentors and having people around that challenge you and push you, right? It's-
Yeah.
How can someone find a good mentor? Because that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Again, I think it's about, going to places that are supportive of your career path. So you guys are in real estate, going to real estate expos, going to
Yeah.
conventions, joining associations, and just looking for people you vibe with, and for
Yeah.
people that you could learn from, right?
Yeah.
You could learn from someone old and you can learn from someone young.
Absolutely.
Right? But I think it's just, again, it's accepting, like what I've learned in the past 2 years is listening, especially when I'm sitting somewhere and someone is talking about business. Why am I going to talk about my business? I can briefly introduce my business, but at the end of the day, I want to learn what they're talking about. How
Yeah.
are they making money, and how can I
Yeah.
incorporate that? If I just talk, then I'm not learning anything, right? But if I'm actually listening to someone who's, giving me value. So yeah, I think it's just get out of our comfort zones and,
Yeah.
and
Push
look
yourself.
for professionals and look for overachievers
Yeah.
and just hang with them. Take them out to coffee, invite them out to dinner.
Yeah. Take initiative.
100%.
Yeah, invest in
Schmooze
yourself.
them. So tell us a little bit about your non-for-profits called 25/7 Fitness.
25/7 Fitness,
Yes.
baby, because we go harder than anyone else.
Okay.
Not 24/7, it's 25/7.
Okay.
Yeah, so it all started, the dream all started in prison.
Yes.
We had an entrepreneurial course. So 6 months before I got out, we did an entrepreneurial course. So then I'm like, I want to have a different angle, because every fitness gym is for profit.
Yeah.
So how can I get support from the community and at the same time do something positive? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run free programs. I'm going to run free boot camps. And this is what's going to bring me personal training clients. So I went back to the old neighborhood that I grew up in, Christie Park. Did the first edition of Prison Pump, and this was to raise money for the nonprofit gym 25/7 Fitness.
Love that.
And I would just talk about basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to open up a gym that's going to give people that come out of the penitentiary opportunities to work
Very
in the fitness
nice.
industry. At the same time, provide mentorship for kids that want to come to these gyms, and them also to become personal trainers. And at the end, to provide quality services
Yeah.
to single mothers, to people who maybe can't afford a conventional gym. Not everyone
Right.
can afford $60 a month.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So we
Pricey.
started applying for grants, and everything was
Wow.
going good. But the interesting story behind that is that I was shot
Wow.
2016 July. It was Caravana weekend. I was just out
Caravana weekend.
April, May, June, July. I was out 4 months
Wow.
running Prison Pump. It was my 11th class, and I got shot 5 times. I was almost
goodness.
murdered. I was in front of, and the story's all over. All over. If you
Broad daylight?
Google my name, in broad daylight.
Wow.
During one of my boot camps. So the guy actually worked out with us for 30 minutes.
The guy who shot you?
The guy who shot me
Oh
worked out
my
with us for 30 minutes,
gosh.
and it's like alarm bells, like my
Were
old
you-
spidey senses.
Were you getting like
I wanted
a
to
bad vibe from him?
100%. I wanted to
Wow.
tackle the guy. At one point, I was gonna tell my friend, we need to tackle this guy. Like I knew he had something on him, but I didn't want to go into that mind. I didn't want to go back to that mindset, guys.
Yeah.
Like I was really trying so
Yeah.
hard to be like, you know what? Maybe that's just my mind playing tricks on me. Maybe, right?
Intuition
So we
strong.
were all doing wall sits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when he came maybe 6 feet in front of me and just opened fire. I got 2 in my chest.
And you didn't recognize
Three
him
through
at
my
all.
No, I didn't recognize him at
Yeah.
all. 2 in my
Wow.
chest. He was sent by someone, and it's
Yeah.
from my past life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, my whole family was there. My 2 sons were there. The mother of my
Wow.
kids, my mom and my sister.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a defining moment in my life, because it's like, what do you do now? You've built this momentum.
Wow.
Now you see a different direction for your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you give up now? And in my mind, I'm like, I can't even walk.
Yeah.
I'm in a wheelchair. What am I gonna do at this point? But I seen that as an opportunity. So I wrote. They were all the publications were coming to see me. They were sending me flowers, the Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, They wanted to hear my story because they kind of painted it as, here's this guy comes out trying to change his life.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
His past comes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna write my own story. So we used to play basketball, and again, this goes back to the networking. We used to play a lawyers game, basketball game at Central Commerce with some lawyers. And one of the guy was a local writer for the Globe and Mail. So I gave him a call and I say, I need a favor. I want to write my story. So if you can pitch this to the editor.
Wow.
And they gave me my first front page in the Globe and Mail.
Wow.
Amazing.
So from there, it was just, it was just a wrap. Momentum, people contributing towards the gym. We bought $30,000 in equipment.
Wow.
Prison Pump documentary came in. They gave us a very generous donation. And then everything just started falling into motion, guys.
Yeah.
So that's like proof in itself, guys. Any negative situation can be transformed to a positive. You either give up or you keep going.
And I will say too, I definitely watched your documentary. It was so good. I was like, damn. Oh my gosh, how did he do that? Like, for you to like really go through all that you did and to be here today and be so positive, a business owner and thriving. I'm even seeing how your son is looking at you when we're doing this, and he's smiling. Like, that is just so like, wow,
It all comes down to a choice, guys.
Yeah.
Right? It all comes like we choose to wake up unmotivated. We choose to wake up miserable. Or you can choose to be happy and grateful and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people are hard on themselves when negative things happen or they feel that they're not at a certain level. I think you just need to wake up and just make the best of every situation. Like I don't let a second pass me by. I live for every second. And I think that everyone should begin to live like that.
Amen. How can people become a part of the nonprofit or donate to your nonprofit organization?
So they can reach out on our website or on our page, Team 257 Fitness on Instagram or 257fitness.com. Send us an email. We are going to start, like I said, I took a brief hiatus for a year, going back home and rediscovering myself and just looking for different ways of life. But this year we're going to go full throttle. We have a gym, Clubhouse Toronto on Yonge and Bloor. We're going to start running boot camps, and I want to invite, I better see you guys there.
Yes,
of course.
Listen, if you need volunteers,
Yeah,
we're
we'll see
all
you
here
guys.
for that.
Yeah, and
okay?
just kind of like putting our minds together and rebuilding that community, because that was my main objective, is just let's build a community and see what we can do from building this community. So we'll be all around the city this summer, guys.
That is
That's beautiful, Alejandro. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're going to play a little game with you, Alejandro. It's called Sip or Spill. We'll be asking some spicy and mild questions. If you don't want to answer at any time, or if you don't know the answer, you just take a shot of the mystery liquid in front of you. I promise it's all edible.
Okay.
But Elphi can start
It's no
us off.
fear factor.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Is there anything in your life that you regret?
I regret not going to school earlier. Like I'm in my fourth year, philosophy, Brock University.
Wow, good job.
Loving the environment, loving just being around, learners, overachievers. If I could go back, that's one thing I would have did.
Yeah.
Is get that experience. That's what I want for my son. To
Right.
I would have lived on res and partied and do, like that's something that I feel that I missed out on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Okay. Are police helping or hurting our communities, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a tough one. Because listen, now it's like even the other day,
Yeah.
I was talking with a friend, right? And there's like this whole code of, I was raised with this like code of silence and right. But what happens if someone breaks into my house now?
Right.
What am I going to do? It's not like I'm going to hunt them down.
Right.
I have to call the police. And does that make me a snitch?
Right.
Like it's such a two conflicting ideals now that I'm living a legitimate life.
Yes.
And you know what? Along the way, there was a situation once where I had to call, my house got broken into, and I had to call an officer. And the officer was super nice. Like we talked about life. He told me about his relationship. He told me about conflict at work and stuff like that. And I seen him as just like a fellow human,
Right.
as opposed to when I was younger. That's the opposition. That's the enemy. They don't want anything. So I think it's like 50-50. There are, police that get into the force with the right intentions.
Yes.
I have been told that, even when I was in the hospital, some guns and gangs officers came in, and these guys were like wearing chains, like they look like urban. They look urban, like you would have never thought. Like and they said, and they're like, Alejandro, can we come in? We want to ask you some stuff, right? And they weren't asking for information. They were just kind of asking how they can help. And they were talking about like a very notorious area in Toronto where the police associations don't even let them go in because it's too dangerous. But in their mind, they're like, how are we going to help these kids if we can't even police the areas that we're supposed to protect?
Right.
So I looked in their eyes and I could see that like they genuinely got into the force for the right reasons, right? So again, like I think just more community involvement, more. We need to know the methods. At the end of the day, these are our streets, right? These are our communities, and we need to know what the police are. We need to know what actually is happening. Right? We can't just have a blind eye to.
That's right.
So yeah, you know what? I think they are doing the best job that they can do, considering the politics.
Yes.
In the police force.
Good answer.
Great answer.
Those are juicy questions.
Okay.
Ask me something juicy.
Okay. So
Juicy
since you want a juicy question, okay, would you serve time in jail again for $10 million?
No. I'm
That's a
42
real
years
one.
old. Yeah, I would never.
Yeah.
I would. There's no. And 10 years, you can make way more than $10 million.
Okay.
Right? You can make way more than $10 million.
Yeah.
I would never put a price on my freedom. Maybe if I was a little bit younger, I would be willing to make that sacrifice for my family. But at this point in my life, I just see things way more. Even in terms of business, like way more scalable. There's so many opportunities out there, and I would never put a price.
I might do it for a year though.
For a year, 10 mil. For a year, I would do it. For a year, I'm coming out jacked, guys. I'm just coming out shredded. Yeah, you guys can come visit me too.
Okay, perfect. We'll be there. All right. So my question is, you've had access to guns at a fairly young age. Would you say that illegal guns are easily accessible in Canada?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And it's like it's from the gun culture in 2007 to now. Like in 2007, it was still a little bit rare. You had to know somebody and there were rules behind the stuff. But now it's just so easily accessible and the kids are just so young. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And I don't think that,
But let me ask you a question in regards to guns. Because, when I go visit in the States, I feel like everyone has a gun and people feel safer with a gun. Do you think that our gun laws should be somewhat changed? Do you think it's good that we have strict gun laws? What do you think about that?
I'm really happy you said that, because even if I go back to like Ecuador or Colombia, the guns actually, people know themselves, right? So someone's not gonna go rob you because in their mind they're like, you might have a gun and you're gonna protect yourself, right? And there's a lot of legal gun owners back home in the States too. There's a lot of legal gun owners, not criminals. Whereas in Toronto, people are usually criminals and they're involved in, criminal trades, and then they're going to great lengths to get those guns, right? So I think in this, just like you said, the States, everyone has guns. So the fact of you gonna pull out a gun is different because it's a suicide mission. Because the other, you already know in your mind in Texas, they have guns too. So I don't know. That's a tough question. I'm all for, what you want to do, and if you have a right and you live in a country where you have the right to bear arms, by all means, right? In my country, I have my license. I do feel a lot safer when I am armed, but it is a third world country and it's different, and it is a deterrent because you have a big gun, and then there's other people that could see that gun and they're like. But in Toronto, it's a completely different beast.
Since your answer was 50-50, I think you should take a shot. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Do I have to guess what it is after?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Mott's, right?
Yeah.
Clamato.
Oh, you got the good one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Was
I
there a
have.
really nasty one there?
No, they're all. I think they're
Yeah.
pretty
That
good.
was nasty.
I
If
do
you ask
have
me.
a spicy question
Okay.
for you, and if you don't want to answer, of course,
Yeah.
you can take a shot. Have you ever shot anyone?
Oh man,
I take that
that's
shot.
that's honestly, guys, it's part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. It's a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
You're a soldier. You know, it's just like a soldier to war, but it's urban
Yeah.
war. It's not going to Afghanistan. It's urban war. And when you're in that lifestyle, you have to be prepared to make some pretty tough decisions.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a family, and the mindset is protecting your family,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
That was a
Okay.
real answer.
That was great.
Okay. If you could tell your younger self anything, what would that be?
If I could tell my younger self something, I think just kind of like believe in yourself and don't listen to what, other people want for your life. Because I think that's what kept me in the drug trade for so long is other people depending on me or other people saying like, no, like you can't leave us. We need you. And them kind of dictating like, this is your life.
Yeah.
This is your life. You can't leave. We have to accept that this is our life and we need to keep going. And I think until I started realizing that there's other directions that my life can take at any point.
Yeah.
At any point. And this is another thing. You can always change your mind.
Is there a price to
You can
pay
always-
to get out of that lifestyle?
It all depends too. Like it all depends on the gang, and it all depends on, right? But me speaking personally, there are no consequences. But it's about you. Why can't I change my mind?
Right.
Why can't I now say, you know what, I'm gonna go and work a regular job, or
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and I don't want this for myself
Yeah.
anymore. So if I can go back in time, I would just kind of be more real with myself, make decisions and stick to it, and not be swayed by my peers or my group or society and so forth, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I do have one more question to kind
course.
of
Yeah.
finish off Sip or
Yeah.
Spill. Do you trust in the justice system after everything that you've been through?
I don't trust in the justice system because I've seen it firsthand for what it is, and it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the truth, guys.
Right.
Unfortunately,
I agree.
it has nothing to do with the truth. It all comes down to money. It all comes down to
Yeah.
who tells the best
Story.
who tells the most believable story based on the evidence that is presented. And you could be a guilty person and be free, and you could be a not guilty person and get sent away. So I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to improve the justice system. I think, again, people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, people with less support, smaller families, even racialized people
Yeah.
are being more, I would say, I'm not saying manipulated, but they're more prone
Yeah.
to end up on the shitty end of the stick of the justice system,
Yeah.
as opposed to people with better socioeconomic backgrounds and so forth.
More money for lawyers, essentially.
More money for lawyers at the end, guys. Yeah.
It's a lawyer's
You
game.
pay
It's a
for
money
freedom out
game.
here.
Yeah. Well, you guys know, even with real estate, right?
Yeah.
Like lawyers are essential. Like
Yes.
lawyers,
Yeah.
they've created their own monopoly that you cannot operate without them, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
they're
that's
the
a
devil
great
in
point.
disguise. Sorry to anyone who's a lawyer.
like the devil's advocate.
Yeah, exactly,
Al Pacino.
exactly.
I want to say thank you so
Yeah.
much for having
Thank you, guys.
us.
Thank
I
you.
think it's been such an incredible experience just meeting you, talking to you, and hearing your story.
Yes.
And I know that everyone who's listening or watching this podcast can definitely relate to any one of the messages that you shared with us today.
Yeah.
Where can the viewers and listeners find you online? Where can they donate? Where can they see more of you?
Guys, I
Alejandro?
invite you all to check out Empire Supper Club, 220 King Street West. It's an up-and-coming hidden gem of Toronto. So I invite you guys here, and you guys can follow me on Instagram, and you guys can put my Instagram on
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
We'll make it
underscore
pop.
Alejandro Vivar underscore.
And I will
And
say,
if you guys want to DM me, message me, any collabs,
Yes.
I'm always open to any type of collabs. And yeah, guys, let's just kill it this year.
and I
Amazing.
will say too, unbiased review, guys. I came to Empire before I even met him, and I had such an incredible experience. I don't go out that much, and it was just honestly amazing. So 10 out of 10. Food was amazing. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Yes.
It's Meet You at the Top podcast.
We'll see you there.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yay!
Meet you at the top.